Welcome, sentient beings of all classifications, to the 874th Annual Miss Universe Pageant, broadcasting live from the Centauri Orbital Station. The announcer's voice boomed through speakers engineered to be comprehensible to 17 different auditory systems simultaneously. This year we have contestants from 87 galactic federations, 9 interdimensional cooperatives, and for the first time ever Earth. Ellie Novak stood in the wings of the massive stage, fighting the urge to vomit. 6 months ago, she'd been working as a barista in Cleveland, Ohio. Today, she was representing the entire human race on an interstellar stage. The diplomatic attaché beside her, a balding man named Frank, who kept dabbing his forehead with a handkerchief, wouldn't stop muttering about interspecies relations and critical first impressions. And please don't say anything about tentacles. Miss Earth will be competing against beings who have evolved over billions of years. The announcer continued cheerfully. Some can bend light with their minds. Some exist simultaneously across multiple dimensions. One can taste the color blue. Isn't diversity magnificent? Ellie tugged at her evening gown, a simple blue number that looked pathetically primitive next to the living crystal growths and atmospheric plasma swirls the other contestants were wearing. I still don't understand why I'm here. I didn't even win Miss Ohio. Frank wiped his brow again. The council needed someone immediately after first contact. You were available. I was making a latte when you abducted me. We didn't abduct you. We expedited your transportation in a black SUV with a bag over my head. Frank waved dismissively. Standard diplomatic procedure. Ellie watched as the contestants began filing onto the stage. Thragnia of Betelgeuse glided by, her 17 eyes all blinking independently at different frequencies, creating a hypnotic pattern that had already caused 3 stagehands to faint. Behind her floated Zorlinda, the gaseous entity from Jupiter's upper atmosphere, contained in a shimmer field that still allowed her perfume a scent that supposedly evoked the life cycle of neutron stars to waft outward. Oh joy, it's the primitive. The voice came from behind Ellie, dripping with more condescension than should be physically possible in a universal translator. Vira Nax of Andromeda stepped forward, her iridescent skin pulsing with patterns that allegedly spelled out superior being, in 14 languages. I heard Earthlings still use verbal communication. How quaint. My species evolved beyond such limitations eons ago. And yet here you are, talking to me, Ellie muttered. Vira Nax's skin flashed crimson. I'm merely using your primitive mode of communication out of courtesy. My natural state would overwhelm your underdeveloped nervous system. Fascinating. Your superiority complex translates perfectly across species barriers. Frank grabbed Ellie's arm. Please don't antagonize the being who can manipulate photons with her mind. And now, the announcer's voice boomed. Let me introduce our distinguished judging panel. The Honorable Gloop 7 of the Silicon Nebula, the esteemed consciousness collective of Tau Ceti, and our head judge, the renowned cultural critic and 16-time galactic peaceweaver, Judge Ixorplax of the Rigelian High Command. Judge Ixorplax's face appeared on the hovering displays, a mass of writhing appendages arranged around what might have been a mouth or possibly a secondary respiratory system. His translator device produced a sound like metal being slowly ground into submission. I am most pleased to evaluate all worthy contestants. There was a pause, and then, with audible distaste, including the human representative, Frank squeezed Ellie's shoulder. He's been vocally anti-human since first contact, something about our habit of breathing oxygen being morally repugnant. Earth isn't even supposed to be competing this century, Vira Nax said with a smirk. Your species barely qualifies as Class 3 sentience, Miss Andromeda. To your starting position, called a harried-looking stage manager who appeared to be part insect. As Vira Nax floated away, Ellie felt a gentle tap on her shoulder. She turned to find herself face to face, or rather, face to tentacles with a softly glowing, jellyfish-like creature. Don't mind Vira Nax, the creature said, its voice like chimes in a gentle breeze. She's just nervous because last year she came in second to a silicon-based life form from Proxima Centauri who could recite poetry in reverse chronological order while reorganizing her atomic structure. Thanks, Krill Tai, from the Neptunian colonies, first time competing too. A tentacle extended toward Ellie in what she assumed was the universal gesture for a handshake. Most contestants here have been genetically engineered for pageantry since conception. Well, except the hive minds they just send their most aesthetically pleasing drones. Miss Earth, you're up next. The stage manager called. Ellie took a deep breath. Here goes nothing. Good luck. Krilte's bioluminescence pulsed encouragingly. Just remember, at least you can't accidentally teleport yourself into the audience like last year's contestant from Alpha Centauri. Thanks. That's not at all what I was worried about until now. As Ellie stepped onto the stage under the glow of 1,000 alien lighting systems, she realized with growing horror that the fate of humanity's first impression on the galactic community now rested entirely on her shoulders. And all she had to show for it was a communications degree from Cleveland State and the ability to make a decent latte art. The preliminary rounds of the Miss Universe pageant were, in a word, bizarre. The swimsuit competition had been phased out centuries ago, apparently after an incident involving a contestant who was literally made of water, replaced by the natural form appreciation segment. One by one, contestants revealed what their species considered the pinnacle of evolutionary achievement. Fragnia of Betelgeuse shed her outer layer to reveal a pulsating mass of crystalline structures that refracted light into colors humans couldn't even perceive. The judges made appreciative clicking sounds as several audience members appeared to enter trance states. A contestant from Sirius B demonstrated how her exoskeleton could rearrange itself into architectural formations capable of withstanding supernovas. Judge Ixorplax's appendages wiggled with what Ellie assumed was approval. When it was Ellie's turn, she walked to center stage in her standard-issue human body, painfully aware of its limitations. Miss Earth will now display her species' evolutionary advantages, the announcer declared. Ellie stood awkwardly for a moment, then smiled and said, I have opposable thumbs. She wiggled her thumbs demonstratively. The audience was silent. And, I can't photosynthesize, but I can eat almost anything organic. Or silence. Oh, and I don't glow in the dark unless I've been near radiation, which is actually a health concern for us. From the judges' table, Sorplax made a sound like hydraulic systems failing. Is this humor? Or is this truly the extent of human evolutionary development? Actually, Ellie continued, gaining confidence, humans have incredible adaptability. We can survive in almost any environment with the right tools. We have exceptional pattern recognition. And we're one of the few species that can effectively throw objects with precision. To demonstrate, she picked up a ceremonial orb from a nearby display, hopefully not sacred, and tossed it neatly into a receptacle across the stage. The crowd murmured apparently accurate throwing was impressive in a galaxy where most beings either had too many limbs for coordination or relied on telekinesis. And we only have one brain. Ellie added brightly, we don't have to argue with our secondary cortexes about decision-making. Several multi-brained audience members nodded in reluctant understanding. The talent portion proved equally challenging. Zolinda from Jupiter formed herself into a perfect replica of the Centauri Orbital Station, down to the individual beings moving within it. The Arcturian contestant manipulated gravity to create a symphony of orbiting microplanetoids. Vira Nax made the audience experience the lifetime of a star in 3 minutes, which caused several weaker-minded spectators to briefly evolve into higher beings. When Ellie's turn came, she performed a tap dance routine she'd learned in college. The clattering of her shoes against the stage floor was met with confused silence, until Kriltar began pulsing appreciatively from the sidelines. Gradually, other contestants joined in, apparently intrigued by this strange percussive ritual that didn't involve telepathy or dimensional manipulation. Fascinating, murmured one judge. The human creates sound using only kinetic energy and primitive footwear. Simplistic, Judge Oxorplax countered. My fourth digestive tract creates more complex rhythms during nutrient processing. After the preliminary rounds, contestants gathered in the harmony chamber, a space designed to accommodate all known forms of life, which meant it was simultaneously too hot, but too cold, too bright, too dark, and smelled vaguely of cinnamon. You did well for a biped with limited sensory capacity, Kriltar told Ellie, her tentacles forming what might have been a thumbs up. Thanks, I think. Ellie sank into a chair that adjusted to her body temperature. I'm pretty sure Judge Oxorplax wants me eliminated. Oh, definitely. Krill agreed cheerfully. He's been lobbying to have Earth classified as a pre-sentient wildlife preserve since your species was discovered. Something about humans being dangerously unpredictable, because you don't follow logical behavior patterns. We follow logical patterns. Sometimes. Krill's tentacles rippled in what Ellie had come to recognize as laughter. Your species invented chocolate cake and nuclear weapons within the same century. The Galactic Council finds this concerning. Across the room, Vira Nax was holding court with several contestants, occasionally glancing in Ellie's direction with what could only be described as malevolent shimmering. She's plotting something, Ellie observed. Probably, Krill agreed. Andromeda has won the past 7 pageants. They take this very seriously. It's their primary form of diplomacy. Rumor has it their contestants undergo molecular restructuring to maximize aesthetic appeal. That seems excessive for a beauty pageant. Krill's bioluminescence dimmed dramatically. This isn't just a beauty pageant, Ellie. The winner becomes an official galactic ambassador with significant diplomatic influence. Some say the Miss Universe winner has more actual power than the Galactic Council itself. Ellie nearly choked on her drink, a blue liquid that tasted like strawberries but smelled like old books. Wait, so if Earth wins, your species gets fast-tracked for full galactic membership, trade agreements, technology sharing, the works. Krill leaned closer. That's why Xorplax is so against you. He belongs to the conservative expansion faction. They think humanity isn't ready. And what do you think? Krill's tentacles formed a complex pattern. I think any species that invented pizza deserves a chance. The format of the Miss Universe pageant evolved over the centuries to become less a beauty contest and more an elaborate evaluation of a species' contributions to galactic society. This explained why the next day found Ellie participating in the formal diplomatic attire. The competition essentially an evening gown segment with higher stakes. Remember, Frank coached her as a team of stylists, most with more than 2 arms, thankfully prepared her. This isn't just about looking pretty. Your outfit should represent Earth's cultural achievements. So I should wear a gown made of smartphones and fast food wrappers, Ellie quipped. Frank didn't laugh. The council approved a design that incorporates elements symbolizing human resilience and creativity. Just try not to trip. The gown was admittedly spectacular midnight blue with thousands of tiny lights sewn into the fabric, arranged to show major constellations as viewed from Earth. As Ellie examined herself in the mirror, she had to admit she looked almost worthy of representing an entire planet. Almost. The competition venue had transformed overnight into a replica of the Grand Galactic Assembly Hall. Contestants would walk the central pathway, showcasing their formal attire while simultaneously demonstrating appropriate diplomatic protocol for their species. Backstage, the atmosphere was tense. A contestant from Tau Ceti was practicing her levitation technique. Another was adjusting the miniature ecosystem living symbiotically within her ceremonial robe. Vira Nax stood apart, her skin cycling through patterns so complex that looking directly at them made Ellie's eyes water. Careful on the walkway, Vira Nax said as Ellie passed. I heard some species find it challenging to navigate. Before Ellie could respond, the ceremonies began. One by one, contestants glided, floated, or undulated down the pathway. The Arcturian representative wore a gown that existed partially in another dimension, creating an effect like walking origami. Krill's tentacles were adorned with living pearls that sang harmonic melodies as she moved. When Ellie's turn came, she took a deep breath and stepped onto the pathway with all the grace she could muster. The lights in her dress twinkled realistically, drawing appreciative murmurs from the audience. She was halfway down the path, actually starting to enjoy herself, when it happened. Her foot caught on something a nearly invisible filament stretched across the walkway. Ellie pitched forward, arms flailing in what felt like slow motion. In that split second, several thoughts flashed through her mind. The diplomatic incident this would cause, Earth's chances at galactic membership vanishing, and most importantly, the fact that she was about to face plant in front of representatives from 87 galactic federations. Pure instinct took over. Ellie transformed her fall into a graceful forward roll, came up on one knee, and as if she'd planned it all along extended her arms in a theatrical gesture that made the constellation lights on her dress shimmer dramatically. The audience erupted in applause, apparently believing this was a choreographed demonstration of human agility. Even Judge Axorplax's appendages twitched in what might have been surprise. As Ellie completed her walk, she caught sight of Vera Nax's expression, a mixture of shock and fury that manifested as rapid-fire color changes across her skin. Back in the preparation area, Kriltar rushed over, tentacles waving excitedly. That was amazing. Was that a traditional Earth diplomatic maneuver? Something like that. Ellie discreetly examined the hem of her dress, now slightly torn. I think Vera Nax tried to sabotage me. Of course she did. You're advancing further than expected. Kriltar's voice dropped to a whisper. The preliminary rankings just posted you're in the top 10. That's impossible. Not really. Your adaptability score is off the charts. The judges were impressed by your recovery on stage. Plus, Kriltar added, several gas-based lifeforms found your solid state charmingly primitive. The sabotage continued throughout the day. During the Universal Cuisine segment, Ellie's food replicator mysteriously malfunctioned, producing a dish that was 87% methane. She improvised by explaining it as an experimental Earth cooking technique, and offered the judges cookies she'd stashed in her room instead. In the interspecies communication challenge, her universal translator began replacing every third word with blob. Ellie worked around it by incorporating the word into her presentation so seamlessly that several judges complimented her creative vocabulary. By evening, tensions were high. The field had narrowed to 20 contestants, and to everyone's surprise, especially Judge Axorplax's, who made a sound like distressed plumbing when the results were announced, Ellie remained in the competition. This is unprecedented, Frank told her, checking his tablet for the fourth time to confirm. No first-time planetary representative has ever made it this far. Vera Nax looks like she's about to explode, Ellie observed, watching the Andromedan contestant's skin cycle through angry red patterns. Be careful, Frank warned. The intelligence portion is tomorrow, and it's where Axorplax typically eliminates contestants he doesn't favor. He once disqualified an entire species for misplacing a semicolon in their quantum theory presentation. Ellie gulped. Great. And here I thought my college finals were stressful. As she headed back to her quarters, Ellie heard a hissing sound from a darkened corridor. She turned to find Vera Nax blocking her path, skin pulsing with menacing patterns. Impressive recovery today, human, she said, voice dripping with artificial sweetness. But tomorrow requires actual intelligence. Shame your species still thinks quantum entanglement is spooky. At least we don't need to sabotage others to feel superior, Ellie replied coolly. Vera Nax moved closer, her luminescence intensifying. This competition determines galactic standing for the next century. Do you really think the Council will allow a species that still fights over petroleum to gain influence? Maybe they're looking for fresh perspectives. Or maybe, Vera Nax hissed, you should withdraw before you embarrass your entire planet. There are accidents worse than tripping that could befall you. With that, she glided away, leaving behind a faint smell of ozone and unmistakable threat. The intelligence portion of the Miss Universe pageant was held in the Central Knowledge Nexus, a vast chamber where the walls, floor, and ceiling consisted entirely of interactive data fields. As contestants entered, the surroundings shifted to display information relevant to their home worlds, creating a personalized psychological environment for each participant. For Ellie, the chamber transformed into a replica of Earth's internet, a chaotic swirl of information, misinformation, cat videos, and an inordinate amount of food photography. Several alien observers seemed mesmerized by the concept of unfiltered information access that humans apparently embraced. This segment will test not merely knowledge, but wisdom, announced the moderator, a sentient AI that existed as a pulsing light pattern. Each contestant will face questions tailored to evaluate their species' intellectual development and problem-solving capabilities. The questions were, to put it mildly, intense. The Rigelian contestant was asked to solve a temporal paradox equation while simultaneously explaining the ethical implications of cross-dimensional travel. The representative from Alpha Centauri had to demonstrate her species' approach to consciousness transfer during supernova events. When Kriltar's turn came, she elegantly explained Neptunian philosophy regarding collective dreaming and its impact on their architectural designs. The judges nodded appreciatively, with even Zorplax seeming impressed by her eloquence. Vira Nax performed spectacularly, as expected. She not only answered complex questions about quantum mechanics, but demonstrated her species' ability to physically manifest theoretical concepts through skin pattern manipulation. The audience gasped as her body briefly became a living illustration of 11-dimensional space. Then came Ellie's turn. As she took her position in the center of the chamber, the walls around her flared with Earth data, everything from Shakespeare to TikTok dances floating in the digital ether. Judge Zorplax's appendages writhed with what Ellie now recognized as smug anticipation. "Miss Earth," his translator crackled, "please explain your species' solution to the Fermi paradox prior to first contact." Ellie blinked. This was actually easier than she'd expected. Well, before we knew about the galactic quarantine protocol that kept advanced civilizations from contacting us, we had several theories. Some thought intelligent life was rare. Others believed advanced civilizations inevitably destroy themselves before achieving interstellar travel. And some suggested we were being deliberately avoided, which, as it turns out, was pretty much correct. A murmur ran through the audience. Ellie continued, "Though personally I always liked the zoo hypothesis, the idea that Earth was being preserved as a natural habitat for observation. Which also wasn't far off, considering the 17 reality shows currently broadcasting Earth activities across the galaxy." She paused. "By the way, can we talk about the ethics of that? Because I'm pretty sure my cousin has no idea his dating life is primetime entertainment on Betelgeuse." Judge Zorplax's appendages twitched irritably. "Let us proceed to a more challenging topic. Please provide a comprehensive explanation of quantum gravity and its relationship to dark matter distribution in your local galactic sector." Frank, watching from the sidelines, went pale. Ellie maintained her composure. "I could attempt that, but it would be like asking a toddler to explain calculus. Humans haven't unified quantum mechanics and relativity, yet we're still working on the basics." But, she added as Zorplax's appendages began wiggling triumphantly, "what we have done is develop thousands of practical solutions without complete theoretical understanding. We built computers before fully understanding electron behavior. We developed medicine before completely mapping cellular functions. Humans excel at practical innovation, despite theoretical gaps." The chamber hummed as the AI processed her response. Several judges leaned forward, seeming genuinely interested. Zorplax was not deterred. "Miss Earth, if your species is so practically minded, perhaps you can resolve this logical conundrum." The walls displayed a complex series of symbols. This is the Hegelian morality paradox, which has remained unsolved for 3 millennia. Ellie studied the symbols, recognizing it as a variant of the classic trolley problem wrapped in layers of additional complexity. It described a scenario where saving lives required actions that would cause harm, with variables constantly shifting based on probabilistic outcomes. "This isn't actually a paradox," Ellie said slowly. "It's a false dichotomy presented as a paradox to test ethical flexibility." Zorplax's translator emitted a sound like grinding gears. "Explain." "The premise assumes that moral decisions must be evaluated solely on quantifiable outcomes, lives saved versus harm caused. But human ethical systems recognize that some means can't justify ends, regardless of numerical benefit. We've spent thousands of years debating precisely these questions without perfect resolution, which is itself a kind of answer. We recognize that moral certainty in complex situations is itself a dangerous position." She gestured to the walls, where Earth's philosophical texts were displayed alongside pop culture references. "We've examined these questions through philosophy, religion, literature, even our entertainment. Hamlet, Les Miserables, The Good Place. We constantly revisit moral dilemmas because we understand there are rarely perfect answers, just better questions." The chamber fell silent. Several judges were making notes, while others appeared to be in deep contemplation. Even the audience seemed engaged, with several beings transmitting the exchange to their home worlds. "One final question," Zorplax said, his tone noticeably less confident. "What does humanity contribute to galactic society that isn't already provided by the existing council members?" Ellie smiled. "In perspective, most council species have existed for millions of years with relatively stable development. Humans compressed their evolution from stone tools to space exploration into a few thousand years. We're messy, contradictory, and often wrong, but we iterate quickly. We learn from mistakes faster than almost any species because we make more of them. And, she added with a hint of defiance, we're really good at karaoke, which I notice is suspiciously absent from galactic culture. A ripple of what might have been laughter moved through the audience. Several judges were nodding, and one, the Consciousness Collective, was pulsing in patterns that indicated approval. Only Sorplax remained unmoved, his appendages now completely still in what Ellie assumed was the Rigelian equivalent of a glare. As she left the chamber, Krill fell into step beside her, tentacles waving excitedly. That was brilliant. You didn't just answer the questions, you reframed them. Is that allowed? It's encouraged. The intelligence portion isn't just about knowledge, it's about demonstrating your species' approach to problems. She lowered her voice. The rankings just updated. You're in the top 5. Ellie nearly tripped again, this time without Vira Nax's help. You're kidding. The judges scored your adaptive problem-solving and philosophical framework very highly. Also, Krill added with a ripple of amusement, I think you're the first contestant ever to question the morality of reality shows. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with Vira Nax, whose skin was cycling through patterns so quickly it was giving Ellie a headache. Congratulations, human, she said flatly. Enjoy your temporary success. The final showdown requires more than clever words. As Vira Nax glided away, Krill tentacles drooped slightly. She's right about one thing, the final showdown is intense. Each contestant must demonstrate their species' unique contribution to the universe. What exactly does that entail? It's different for everyone. Last year, the Arcturian contestant created a miniature star that sang opera. The year before, the Silicon Nebula representative turned herself into a living computer that could predict political outcomes with 99.7% accuracy. Ellie's momentary confidence evaporated. And what am I supposed to do? I can't manipulate matter or predict the future. Krill's bioluminescence brightened encouragingly. You'll think of something. That's what humans do best, isn't it? Improvise? The final showdown was held in the Grand Exhibition Arena, a massive space that could adapt to any performance requirements. The atmosphere was electric as spectators from across the galaxy gathered to witness the culmination of the pageant. The stakes had never been higher. Earth's potential acceptance into the galactic community hung in the balance. The 5 finalists prepared backstage, each in their own designated area. Vira Nax was surrounded by a team of assistants, all working to maximize her bioluminescent patterns. Krill floated in a special solution that enhanced her tentacles' natural glow. The Arcturian and Regalian contestants were engaged in what appeared to be meditation, though the Arcturian was simultaneously existing in 3 dimensions at once, which made the concept of stillness relative. Ellie sat alone, Frank having been banned from the preparation area after attempting to smuggle in performance enhancers, which turned out to be nothing more dangerous than espresso, though caffeine was classified as a restricted substance in 17 galactic sectors. 5 minutes to final performances, announced an assistant with too many eyes and not enough mouth. Ellie took a deep breath, reviewing her hastily formulated plan. After the intelligence portion, she'd spent hours researching previous competitions, trying to identify anything humans could do that might impress beings who could manipulate time and matter on a whim. The answer had come to her during a stress-induced doze. Humans weren't exceptional for what they could do, but for how they perceived what others did. The Arcturian went first, creating a symphony of gravity waves that caused the entire station to harmonize like a massive instrument. The effect was so moving that several gaseous beings temporarily solidified from emotional overload. The Rigelian transformed the arena into a living historical record, allowing spectators to experience key moments from galactic history as if they were present. Judge Oplax was visibly moved when his home world's ancient civilization was briefly reconstructed around them. Krill performed a spectacular display of bioluminescent storytelling, her tentacles painting moving images in the air that depicted the interconnectedness of all sentient life. The audience responded with appreciative flashes, clicks, and pheromone releases. Then came Vira Nax. Her performance began subtly, her skin shifting through patterns of increasing complexity until they became almost hypnotic. Gradually, the patterns expanded beyond her body, filling the arena with three-dimensional light structures that responded to the collective emotional state of the audience. The effect was breathtaking, a living, responsive art piece that seemed to connect everyone present in a web of shared experience. As the display reached its climax, Vera Nax added her final element, a direct mental link offered to the judges, allowing them to briefly experience her species' collective consciousness. The judges' expressions, those who had recognizable faces, reflected profound awe. When Vera Nax finished, the arena erupted in the galactic equivalent of a standing ovation, beings rising, floating, or expanding to their full dimensions in appreciation. And then it was Ellie's turn. She walked to center stage empty-handed, no special effects, no reality manipulation, not even a PowerPoint presentation. Just a human woman in a simple dress, standing before the most powerful beings in the galaxy. "For my demonstration," Ellie began, her voice steady despite her racing heart, "I will not create new stars or bend reality. Instead, I will show you something uniquely human, our ability to find meaning in the creations of others." A confused murmur rippled through the audience. "I've experienced each finalist's performance not just as a spectator, but as a human, a species that evolved to find patterns, create narratives, and forge emotional connections, even with beings entirely unlike ourselves." Ellie turned to face the Arcturian. "Your gravity symphony wasn't just beautiful, it reminded me of Earth's oceans, how the pull of our moon creates tides that have shaped our evolution and culture. We've written countless poems about that relationship, created art and music inspired by that cosmic dance." She shifted toward the Regalian. "Your historical reconstruction didn't just show us the past, it demonstrated how memory shapes identity, how we are all products of our histories yet capable of transcending them. On Earth, we preserve our history not just to remember facts, but to understand ourselves." To Krill Tay, she said, "Your bioluminescence story spoke to the human concept of Ubuntu, the philosophy that I am because we are. Your light patterns revealed connections we intuitively seek, but often struggle to maintain." Finally, she addressed Vera Nax, "And your living light sculpture demonstrated something humans have always known, that art is most powerful when it responds to its audience, when creator and observer form a dialogue rather than a monologue." Ellie turned back to the judges. "The human contribution to the universe isn't our technology or our physical capabilities. It's our perspective, our ability to witness the magnificence others create and find meaning that even the creators might not have intended. We're the universe's interpreters, its appreciators, its audience." She paused, then continued with growing confidence. "We see patterns where others see randomness. We create stories where others see only events. We find meaning in a universe that offers none inherently. That's our gift, not creation itself, but the ability to recognize and celebrate the creation of others." The arena had fallen completely silent. Even the usually restless gaseous entities were perfectly still. "To demonstrate," Ellie said, "I invite each finalist to briefly recreate an element of their performance, which I will interpret through a human lens." What followed was unexpected. As each contestant reproduced a portion of their display, Ellie provided a human perspective that transformed the experience. She compared the Arcturian's gravity waves to Buck Fugues, related the Rigelian's historical scenes to Earth's oral storytelling traditions, connected Krill Ta's bioluminescence to human dreams, and likened Vera Nax's mental linking to human empathy. With each interpretation, the audience's engagement deepened. Many beings were experiencing their own creations through new perspectives for the first time, seeing familiar patterns in unfamiliar ways. As Ellie concluded, the arena remained silent for a long moment, not the silence of disappointment, but of profound contemplation. Then, gradually, it filled with a sound like rain falling upward, the galactic equivalent of snapping fingers in appreciation. From her position at center stage, Ellie caught sight of Judge Oplax. His appendages were completely still, but his translator was emitting a soft hum that the nearby contestants recognized as the Rigelian expression of reluctant respect. Vera Nax, however, was visibly seething, her skin cycling through patterns that required no translation to recognize as fury. As the judges conferred, she glided toward Ellie, her voice low and dangerous. "Clever performance, human," she hissed, "but inadequate. Watch how a true galactic power handles defeat." Before Ellie could respond, Vera Nax's skin began pulsating rapidly, emitting energy patterns that interfered with the arena's electromagnetic field. The lighting systems flickered, and several sensitive beings in the audience began showing signs of distress. "What are you doing?" Ellie whispered urgently. "Creating a diplomatic incident." Vera Nax replied coolly. "One that will be attributed to human electromagnetic disruption. A regrettable end to Earth's first pageant appearance." The disruption was intensifying, with the station's alarms beginning to sound. Security drones were already moving toward the stage, sensors focused on the unusual energy readings. Ellie had seconds to react. Drawing on everything she'd observed about Andromedan physiology over the past days, she made a desperate gamble. "Hey, Vera Nax," she said loudly. "I just wanted to say your light patterns are absolutely gorgeous." Vera Nax paused mid-pulse, caught off guard by the compliment. "What?" "The way your chromatophores shift through the ultraviolet spectrum, it's stunning." "I've never seen anything like it," Ellie continued, maintaining unwavering eye contact. "That's why I mentioned your art in my presentation. It genuinely moved me." Vera Nax's pulsations slowed involuntarily as confusion disrupted her focus. Andromedans were notorious for their vanity regarding their bioluminescent abilities. It was their cultural cornerstone. "You appreciated my display?" Vera Nax's voice carried uncharacteristic uncertainty. "Of course. On Earth, we have creatures called cuttlefish with similar abilities, but they're nothing compared to your mastery. The way you created those three-dimensional patterns, it was like watching the birth of galaxies." The security drones hovered nearby, sensors still detecting residual energy fluctuations, but the immediate threat had diminished. The station's alarms quieted. Vera Nax's skin settled into a pattern that Ellie recognized from her research as contemplative. "Humans are strange. You complement your competition even as they attempt to sabotage you. It's not strategy," Ellie replied. "It's honesty. Your display was magnificent. That doesn't change just because we're competitors." A low, rumbling sound interrupted them as Judge Sorplax approached the stage, flanked by the other judges. His translator emitted a series of clicks before converting to English. "We have reached our decision," he announced, his voice resonating throughout the arena. "This competition has shown us much about the candidates and their species." The audience fell silent, even the gaseous entities condensing in anticipation. The Andromedan candidate demonstrated exceptional mastery of electromagnetic manipulation, Sorplax continued. The Arcturian's gravity symphony revealed profound understanding of universal forces. The Rigelian's historical reconstruction displayed remarkable temporal awareness. Krill Tay's bioluminescent storytelling exhibited beautiful biological harmony. He paused, his compound eyes shifting toward Ellie. "And the human candidate showed us something unexpected: the power of perspective. While lacking the physical and metaphysical capabilities of other contestants, humans possess a unique ability to find connections between seemingly disparate elements of the universe." Sorplax's appendages extended to their full height, the traditional posture for important proclamations. "Our decision is thus: the official winner of the 3427th Galactic Pageant of Excellence is..." The station's lights dimmed dramatically. Vera Nax of Andromeda. A cacophony of alien celebration erupted. Vera Nax's skin blazed with triumphant patterns so bright that spectators had to engage optical filters. However, Sorplax continued, silencing the crowd. "We have also decided to award a special commendation to Earth and its representative. Humanity will be granted observer status within the Galactic Council, with potential for full membership after a probationary period." Ellie stood stunned as Frank rushed onto the stage, completely ignoring protocol. "We did it," he whispered excitedly. "Observer status is better than nothing. It gets Earth a seat at the table." Vera Nax approached, her victory patterns now subdued. She regarded Ellie with what might have been respect. "You prevented my sabotage when you could have let me fail," she said quietly. "Why?" "Because that's not how humans win," Ellie replied. "At least, not how we should win." Vera Nax contemplated this. "Perhaps there is something to learn from your species after all. Your perspective is refreshing." As they exchanged this moment of understanding, The arena transformed for the closing ceremony, and Earth's journey into the galactic community officially began. 3 standard galactic months after the conclusion of the pageant, Ellie found herself aboard an entirely different space station, this one orbiting Jupiter, but constructed in record time as Earth's first official galactic observatory post. She stood before a curved viewport that framed the gas giant's swirling storms alongside representatives from 17 different species. This was her first official function as Earth's appointed galactic observer, a position she'd never imagined holding when she'd boarded that first ship to the pageant. Ambassador Gardner, a familiar voice called. Ellie turned to see Kriltar floating in her containment sphere, tentacles arranged in what Ellie now recognized as a greeting pattern. Just Observer Gardner, Ellie corrected with a smile. We haven't earned ambassador status yet. A formality, Kriltar replied, her translator conveying amusement. Your species has made remarkable adaptations since joining the galactic community. 3 planetary defense systems, 17 cultural exchange programs, and a thriving trade in what you call fiction exports. Ellie nodded. Earth's stories had become unexpectedly valuable in interstellar markets. Alien civilizations were fascinated by humanity's imagination, particularly our ability to envision realities so different from our own. Speaking of adaptations, Ellie said, I hear you've incorporated some human interpretative techniques into your performances. Kriltar's tentacles flashed with pleased acknowledgement. Your species' ability to find patterns has enhanced my storytelling. I now consider the audience's perspective during creation, not merely after presentation. A low hum announced Judge Exorplax's arrival. His massive form had been specially accommodated by the station's designers. Observer Gardner, he acknowledged. The Council is impressed with Earth's transition. Your species absorbs information at remarkable rates. We've had good teachers. Ellie replied diplomatically, though I'm curious why you awarded us observer status despite our obvious technological limitations. Exorplax's translator hummed as he considered his response. He sighed. The pageant revealed something unexpected about humans. Your species possesses what we call cross-contextual intelligences. The ability to apply frameworks from one domain to entirely different situations. Pattern recognition, Ellie suggested, and more than that. Exorplax corrected. It is your tendency to metaphorize, to see one thing in terms of another. Most species perceive the universe as it is. Humans constantly reimagine what it could be. Before Ellie could respond, the station's communication system announced an incoming transmission. The viewport transformed into a projection screen, revealing a face Ellie hadn't expected to see again so soon. Vira Nax appeared, her skin patterns formal but friendly. Observer Gardner, she greeted. The Andromedan Collective wishes to propose a collaborative project with Earth. I'm listening, Ellie replied cautiously. Our scientists have studied human artistic interpretation and believe it may enhance our predictive models for cosmic phenomena. We propose an exchange program, Andromedan light artists paired with human interpreters. Ellie couldn't hide her surprise. The Andromedans were notoriously protective of their bioluminescent arts. That's unexpectedly generous, Vira Nax. The Andromedans' patterns shifted to what Ellie had learned was their equivalent of a shrug. Our victory in the pageant secured our status. Now we seek innovation. Human perspective offers this. It is a logical partnership. As discussions continued, Frank appeared at Ellie's side, now wearing the uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Who would have thought, he whispered, that our greatest asset would be our humanity itself? Ellie smiled, watching the diverse gathering of beings who now considered Earth worthy of attention. We spent centuries looking to the stars, hoping to find others who could teach us about the universe. Turns out, we had something to teach them too. As the Jupiter Observatory rotated into Earth's shadow, the assembled representatives prepared for the official ceremony designating Earth's formal recognition in galactic records. Ellie took her position at the center of the gathering, ready to represent not just her planet but a uniquely human perspective in an increasingly complex cosmic community. Humans may be newcomers to the galactic stage, she addressed the assembly, but we bring with us thousands of years of looking at the stars and imagining what might be. And that imagination, our ability to see possibilities where others see only what is, that's our contribution to this grand cosmic dialogue. As Earth began its journey as a recognized galactic entity, Ellie couldn't help but think that humanity's greatest strength had never been in our technology or our physical capabilities, but in our endless capacity to find meaning in the vast, beautiful universe around us and to share that meaning with others. The universe, it seemed, had been waiting for its interpreters all along.